time we are already waiting for the word DRS. Can I introduce Shonag McKinnon, our political consultant for Scotland? She is going to host this event. Please, Shonag. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I hope you're all well refreshed. No hidden meaning in that. I hope that no wine was consumed. The only real danger we face perhaps is being too expansive with our answers, because you can see it's a fairly snug fit. So I'm trying not to get our speakers too excited. I think first of all I'm going to just introduce people before these names disappear. Is this working for you?
Yes.
Yep. So first of all we have Travis Way from EcoVend, one of the reverse vending machine manufacturers. Claudia Marshall from UK RDM Systems UK. Ewan Dryburgh from Tomra, another vending machine company. And we also have Simon Jones, who's Chief Operations Officer from Circulatory Scotland, which is the appointed administrating firm handling CSL. And Simon has very kindly and bravely volunteered to summarise first of all what the deposit return scheme is, to give a broad outline and to respond to perhaps any myths that are going around. And then we're going to ask the remaining members of the panel to introduce themselves and speak a little bit about their perspective on the scheme. But the real stars of the show are yourselves, because we very much want you to ask questions when we open up the floor. So this is your chance, as it was billed, everything you ever wanted to know about a deposit return scheme. This is the moment.
Thanks, Shonag. Okay, good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity to come and talk to you. As Shonag said, I'm Simon Jones, the Chief Operations Officer for Circulatory Scotland. DRS has been in the news a lot recently, which is no surprise, given producer registration and the opening of the return point operator registration window, and the UK raising the profile slightly with DEFRA announcements for its plans in 2025. We understand that the scheme is new to everyone, and many producers, retailers and return points will have questions. There are a lot of businesses who are concerned about the scheme. Equally, there are many businesses who are getting ready and can see the benefits and are working on how to build into their standard ways of working. I'm here today to talk you through elements of the scheme and then to join the panel to answer your questions. The scheme goes live in just over 5 months, on the 16th of August, and the scheme will go live. Everyone acknowledges the challenge from government, SEPA and Circularity Scotland. We understand this is a very big challenge and business decisions have to be made. We at Circularity Scotland will do everything we can to support you in getting ready for the scheme to go live. Circularity Scotland was set up by industry to help deliver the obligations of producers and retailers that have been passed on to them by legislation. We are a not-for-profit organisation who exist to help and deliver the rule book as set out by government. We are not a public body, but a private organisation with 32 members. DRS is a government scheme aimed to improve recycling and in particular litter that plagues the beautiful Scottish landscape whilst promoting a circular economy. A circular economy is designed to ensure reuse rather than disposal. The aim is to get to a 90% return rate of all drinks containers, which will then be reprocessed back into drinks containers, hence creating a circular economy by reusing the material and turning it back into bottles and cans as they once were. The scheme will see a 20p deposit charged on all single-use drinks containers, be that glass, cans or PET bottles. This is charged through the supply chain and onto the end customer. When the drink is consumed, the end customer can take the empty container to a return point to get their 20p deposit back. The simple way to look at it is the 20p follows the drink and is passed back as it is purchased. This then allows the consumer to return the container to a return point to get their 20p back. Circularity Scotland will then refund the return point so everyone gets the money back. DRS covers a broad range of industry sectors and is supported by a wide range of regulatory, advisory and management organisations. It's no surprise that it can be quite confusing for someone new to DRS to work out who should be doing what and to whom you should go for help, guidance or to progress. Hopefully I can help to reduce some of that confusion today. I won't claim to take it away completely. There are actions underway to bring further clarity and alignment to the provision of information. I want to cover off the role of a number of organisations that play a part in the delivery of the deposit return scheme. SEPA, the regulator, they will ensure compliance, support companies through transition and where necessary will enforce at points in the future. They will manage the transition. They accept it's new and companies should try to comply, and SEPA will support and not enforce to start with. Interpretation of the regulations is a key point for SEPA. More and more detail being worked on as more specific producer and retailer scenarios come to light. Zero Waste Scotland. Their main role is to manage exemptions, and there are two types of exemption. Proximity. If there is another return point within a reasonable distance with similar opening times and accessibility that ensures your customers can make returns and they have agreed to operate as a return point on your behalf, you can apply for an exemption. Environmental exemptions are the second one. If your outlet is less than 100 metres squared, or you are food to go and your footprint is less than 280 metres squared, you can apply for an environmental health exemption, as operating as a return point is likely to breach those obligations. Zero Waste Scotland will also manage volunteer return points, and both of these are borne on behalf of Scottish ministers. The Scottish Government, their core objective, right from the earliest days of the deposit return scheme in Scotland, is to ensure that the policy objectives for the scheme are met. There are some very specific operational responsibilities that Scottish ministers have, and some of these have been delegated to Zero Waste Scotland, for example, the exemptions. The final section of the regulations describes a requirement for ministers to conduct a full review of the regulations, how well they have been delivered against the policy objectives, and consider what changes, if any, should make. That will happen a few years after go live, when the scheme has had a chance to bed down and we at Circulatory Scotland can show how we are improving the overall collection rate. In addition to the formal regulatory functions, the team at Scottish Government are supporting implementation across a wide range of areas. Some of those are within their control, e.g. the recently announced revised approach to exemptions, and some are not, such as reserve matters like that. There are also hard on fine-tuning how the DRS regulations and practices will sit with current and future regulations in the waste and packaging areas. Circularity Scotland was set up to deliver a specific set of legal responsibilities allocated to producers. The scheme administrator plays a critical central role in ensuring...
There will shortly be a test of the fire alarm system. There is no requirement to take any action at this time. There will be a further announcement after the test. Thank you.
That's still a lovely time.
I don't mind running for the escape. The scheme administrator plays a critical central role in ensuring the scheme runs efficiently and effectively. Because it is effectively acting on behalf of the producers who appoint it, the deposit return scheme is a form of producer responsibility, and Circularity Scotland takes on that role in an aggregated manner for producers operating in Scotland. So,
an emergency situation has arisen within the building. Please leave the building in an orderly manner.
What I mean by aggregated responsibility. So, the scheme is set out to improve recycling to with a target in year 2 of 90%. By appointing Circularity Scotland as a producers to deliver their obligations, we take on that responsibility. So we aggregate all of the returns, which supports all of the small guys as well as the big guys get to 90%. So it makes it much easier for everybody as a whole to fulfil their obligations rather than as an independence. Less obvious in the regulations, but equal importance is to act as the central coordination point as we approach and go through the 16th of August. That is not to say we will do everything. Each individual organisation has its own obligations and must take responsibility for delivering what it must do. We cannot control what you do and what you spend, but we are well aware of the responsibilities we have to issue guidance, standards and information to support overall implementation.
The alarm test has now been completed. Any further activations of the alarm should be treated as genuine. Thank you for your cooperation.
Well done, Simon.
And we will increase our focus and communication over the coming 2 months. You'll start to see more, and you'll start to see more in the press. The main operational responsibility that CSL will take on for the deposit return scheme in simple terms, we will manage and track all deposits, fees, containers and material across the scheme. The 4 main affected groups are producers, and their responsibility is to declare the scheme articles or drinks that they have put to market. Retailers and hospitality, selling and displaying the drinks, clearly showing that there is a 20p deposit. Return point operators accepting the returns and giving the 20p back to the consumer and preparing. Someone's going to pop out, Jeremy Beadle's going to pop out. And obviously circularity, Scott. Just briefly talk about return points. There are effectively 2 types of return point, manual and automatic. A manual return point is a retailer who wants to operate as a return point but doesn't have the space or think they will get enough returns to warrant investment in a return vending machine. They will take the scheme articles back and put them undamaged in a tote for glass and plastic bag for cans and PET bottles. A return handling fee will be paid to the retailer for operating a return point, and collections will be organised regularly to support the needs of your businesses. When collected, the bags and totes will go through a counting centre to verify the returns, and then the repayment process will commence with return handling fee and deposits paid back to the retailer. An automatic return point is a retailer who has chosen to invest in a return vending machine. The machine will operate as a counting machine and record all returns. It will crush the cans and PET bottles, and the glass will break naturally. Collections will be organised again to support the needs of your business. If you are unsure and you want to operate as a return point, then we would suggest, chaps and ladies, you consider starting as a manual return point and move to automatic at a later date, should you want to. There are approximately 30,000 potential return points between retailers, hospitality and other organisations, such as hospitals and schools. The exemption process exists to help people make informed decisions about their businesses should they wish to opt out of being a return point. It also helps us to determine a more efficient collection schedule. I know you are all wanting to understand when collections will take place. We want to get that information to you as soon as possible, but for now we urge you to either apply for an exemption or register as a return point. The sooner we get the information, the sooner we are able to produce collection schedules and work with you to ensure we get it right for your business. I appreciate it was a very quick overview, but we'll sit with the panel now and answer your questions. Thanks for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Simon.
Thank you.
So we just hand to Travis first of all. And Travis, could you introduce yourself again and then perhaps sum up for us the main reasons, what are the main advantages of an RVM machine in your view? Why should people consider that, or at least once they reach a certain threshold?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi there, I am Travis Way. I'm the Managing Director for EcoVend. We're part of the Economy Group, and we've been established now for over 35 years. And basically we've been experienced in the waste and recycling sector for a number of years, not only selling compactors and balers but also undertaking the collections as well. So many years ago we decided to build our own reverse vending machine. We're EcoVend. The EcoVend machine is slightly unique in that we have up to 55 and 65 inch advertising screens built within the machine. And the reason we've done that is to ensure from 2 aspects. Number one, the communication is really important with the DRS going live, with the consumers not really aware or understanding what needs to be done. We felt a 55 or 65 inch multimedia screen can really get that message across. Also, within that advertising screen that we've built, it also generates revenue for the actual retailer as well. So it gives them the added advantage that revenue can be generated from the machine.
Sorry, I'm being a bit dense here. Do you mean this is an extra thing that people can invest in, retailers can invest in? It's a screen that goes in their shop.
Exactly.
And it explains to shoppers
So
what the scheme's about, what they have to do. Is that it?
yeah. So basically, it gives the right message. So what you've got is a 55 or 65-inch advertising screen that will tell the consumer what they need to do in terms of. We often say it's easy as 1, 2, 3. So putting your bottle in, it scans the barcode. You then receive your voucher, and at that point, it then recycles the bottle. But I think it's quite important that those messages are portrayed in a good way to the customer, especially when they're in new markets, such as Scotland.
So I suppose if it doesn't get off to the right start, then that mixed picture that the consumer gets may impact on the long-term success of or the medium-term success of the scheme.
Absolutely, yeah, because you're going to find when you're processing bottles, obviously you pay your 20p for a bottle, and at the point of return, if it does go through a reverse vending machine, it will actually then initially it will read the barcode, and that barcode has to be recognised from a central system, which is linked to Circulatory Scotland. Once the two are linked, then ultimately you will then get your deposit back. You won't get cash out of the machine, but it will be in the form of a voucher or via an online app that you can download into a wallet, basically. So that's really how it's going to work. With regards to the material that's going in, we commingle some material, but we try to separate as much as possible. So glass will be separated, and the PET bottles or the cans will be commingled or segregated.
So that's the plastic bottles, the special plastic PET.
PET.
So does that mean that if you have the machine, you don't have the smelly task of sorting out bottles and cans yourself?
Yeah, well, all of the machines are built with weight sensors. So with regards to the weight sensors that's built into the machines, and it goes for all of the providers as well, the weight sensor will determine whether there's actual liquid already in the bottle. If there is liquid, it will actually reject it, because we only want material that's empty basically going into the machine.
So no, but I suppose I was thinking from the retailer's point of view, they won't necessarily have to physically handle bottles and cans.
No.
If the shoppers are putting it directly into the machine, they don't have that unpleasant task. And some of the sorting of the empties coming back will be done by the machine, from what you're saying.
Yeah, so it will, when it reads the barcode and it's accepted, at that point it will segregate it into whether it be glass, whether it be PET plastic bottles or aluminium cans. At that point, once it's just at a point of separation, other than the glass, the other two materials will get compacted. So it ensures that you can get as much material inside the RVM as possible.
Yeah, great. Okay, can I pass the microphone to Claudia? Thank you. Claudia, are there points that you would like to flesh out for us?
Yes, maybe first of all introducing myself. Again, it's Claudia Marshall. I am Managing Director of RVM Systems, also one of the big reverse vending suppliers on the market. We have in 40 plus markets our RVMs based. We also have a sister company, and that is also very important for the Scottish market. It's Anker Andersen supplying to Biffa, to the Scottish deposit return scheme, the high speed and counting solutions where the manual containers will end up. So that's a bit about RVM systems. You will hear on my accent, I'm not British, I'm not Scottish, I'm German, and I grew up with the DRS scheme, and I was also living for 10 years in Sweden, where DRS is voluntary and not government driven. Very well established, very well working, and when I personally came to UK, I was confused, where's my recycling bin, where can I get redeemed? And shocked and horrified about the litter, and also that most of the collected material still goes into landfill. So I'm a big ambassador about getting the system done and dusted, implemented in Scotland and also in UK. You were asking a bit about, that was the briefing when we came here, manual handling or automatic handling. And yes, I think as a store, as a shop, convenience store, you need to decide what space are you willing to invest to give up for a reverse handling machine. But you were asking the question, if I'm as a customer at public coming with my bottles, you have the choice either to hand these bottles, which might be contaminated, over a counter, and this might be the space you have available, the same counter, you are then later handing over fresh food, fresh articles towards your clients, your customers. So you would need to have a kind of clean zone for selling, and you will have to have a kind of, I wouldn't say dirt zone, but you know what I mean, to receive the containers if you're doing manually. Then if you like to look, I have an outside, we brought with us 2 bags, one bag with 100 counted compacted PET and can bottles and cans, and 100 non-compacted. And there you can see what's the difference of the storage capacity you would need to hold in your stores compared to having an RVM. RVM system is supplying RVMs with, I might say, the highest storage capacity, before my competitors knocking me down here, but we have the highest storage capacities in our RVMs, up to 2,000 compacted PET bottles and cans. If you just go outside and see the bags, 2,000 before you need to empty an RVM first time, and 2,000 in manual handles, then you can also see how much space you would need to invest for storing the manual handled containers before they are getting picked up, compared to giving a little bit more space away for an RVM to have them compacted.
My understanding, Claudia, is that CSL hasn't yet decided how often they'll be picking up the empties. It depends. It's on, you know, how many empties are being returned. So, you know, it could be that they're not in a position of having 2,000 cans and bottles on their premises for very long. So, I mean, some people are a bit concerned because there's been no firm timetable being given out in advance. But I think, as I understand, CSL say, well, that's a bit hard because we don't know what's coming in first, or certainly the minister responsible for the centre is indicating that.
Yeah, we have no idea who will want to operate as a return point at this until they register. And the point of registering is to allow us to understand where they are and then create the schedule to be able to go and collect efficiently, ensure we do everything we can to meet the needs of the business so that there isn't issues in terms of storing more waste than they can handle. But without the information as to who wants to do it, it becomes very difficult to determine when and how.
Okay. Ewan, could I ask you to introduce yourself and can we have your take on matters?
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Ewan Dryburgh. I'm the area sales manager for Tomra. We are based in Livingston. We employ just over 30 employees in Scotland, although we are a Norwegian headquartered company, and we've been operating for just over 50 years. So we're our 50th birthday party just after I joined the company last year. I won't revisit all the things that we mentioned, some really, really good points. In terms of adding value to what you've said, there are other elements, so things like fraud prevention. So a reverse vending machine will give you added value in terms of fraud prevention. The other key thing to think about...
Can you flesh that out for us, Ewan? What is the fraud that you envisage?
So envisage somebody coming to a counter with a container. Now, is that in scope or is it not in scope? How does the retailer know that?
Does that bottle or can come under the scheme or not?
So exactly, yeah. And there will be, I believe, an app come out for the manual element of that. But you know, quite often you hear from a retailer's point of view, you hear about conflict within store for various reasons. So she's starting another element of conflict. You know, it's in, it's not in. It's been crushed, for example. Can you take it? You can't take it. Either the machine takes it or it doesn't take it. That's the end of it.
Can you just stop for a moment? Can you explain that app for us? Does that mean the retailer or the shopper, the consumer, needs to have an app to be able to check.
This is for the manual return. So for the manual return, there is an
So,
app.
right, okay, so it would normally be the shopkeeper who would have that app
Yes.
and would be able to check it, right?
Yeah, so
okay.
it's just, it takes all that element away from the shopkeeper. And then there's other elements in terms of, like my colleagues touched on, action, that kind of thing. So fraud is definitely one element that helps you with. The other thing to think about, and this is coming at it from a retailer's point of view in terms of the value to your business. So footfall, so it could be seen as a footfall driver. If you picture a high street, there's two shops either end of the high street. One has a reverse vending machine, the other one doesn't. Sunday afternoon, you're going down to the shop with your bag of returns. People are like water; they go for the easiest, the easiest route. Go to the shop with the reverse vending machine. It's driving footfall into that store. So I quite often say to retailers, think about it like the National Lottery 25 years ago, because all the arguments were the same. The arguments were it's taking up staff time. It's taking up, it's causing queues at the tills, it's taking up space in the premium part of the store, round about the till. And there was objections, and then within 6 months of the National Lottery going live, people were falling over each other to get a lottery terminal within their store. So think about it in that kind of context. All those same arguments, so space, staff time, queuing, those will all add footfall. So when people are coming in to do their returns, not only are they spending the money that they're putting through that reverse vending machine, they're also buying other things when they're into store. So think about it from that point.
But what about the cost for the retailer of either buying or leasing?
So our friends at Circulatory Scotland will tell you that this scheme is not about making money, it's about getting the cash back. So the machines should always be cost neutral. And we all have similar models. I'm going to be careful to say that we're all here to help the retailers. So there will be a tipping point where you get enough returns back in a week to pay a lease or a capital cost on a reverse vending machine. And that's the point that our retailer should be looking at. So do they want to go manual or do they want to go automated?
Are we talking roughly 5,000 empties a week that make it viable for a machine?
I think you're into land of milk and honey if you've got 5,000 returns in a week.
All right, okay. So what point would you, as a salesman, a sales manager for these reverse vending machines, what would you say is the tipping point?
We've all had these conversations at these sort of events. So around about 2,000 returns in a week would be, and 2,000 returns sounds like quite a lot when you first say it, but when you think about it, a 24 pack, a 24 pack for example is 24 returns. It's not one pack. It's 24 returns.
Right.
So think about 24 packs beer, 24 packs soft drinks, and then everything else that goes with it, whether it's bottles of wine, 500ml PET cans, bottles of Coke, that kind of thing. 2,000 is not a massive number.
Simon, you're neutral in this. Would you
completely,
have any thoughts on the tipping point?
Completely agnostic on the tipping point. It's not just the cost of the machine, so you need to bear in mind it's the power, there's installation costs, there's what you expect as your return on investment, and what time period, and it's certainly for us to try and advise someone on what's best.
I mean, I'm hearing privately £8,000 to £15,000 to buy a machine. Is that the sort of ballpark you recognise? Yeah. And what about servicing? Annual servicing? Is it quarterly servicing?
So, I was going to say, put your head above the parapet. And those are probably conversations that have commercially with a retailer, but there is options. They could either have an ad hoc. Again, put an analogy, you wouldn't buy a car and drive it for 100,000 miles without taking it for a service. So you need to think about, do you want to have an annual service? You probably do want to have an annual service. It's a mechanical piece of equipment, so if you run into a problem, you want to know you can contact. So we will have a call centre, for example, and I'm sure you guys will have similar support networks. So you want to know that you've got a phone number to phone and say, this is the problem with the machine. How quickly can you get somebody out to fix it, or can you just go online, telemetry, and have a look at it and fix it online, for example? So there are things, you're quite right to say, there's things to think about beyond just plugging it in and pressing go.
So roughly, probably an annual service might be enough for most?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Tomra would do an annual preventative maintenance check.
Any idea roughly what sort of charge would be involved in that?
So we would offer, for the first couple of years, we would offer that as free charge. And then after that, we would look at doing warranty packages. which are, you know, it's pretty much an industry standard.
I can't speak for RVM or Tomra, but in terms of the machine, I imagine we're very similar. We've also introduced remote telemetry